we just talked about it. The Gators, the basketball team is heading to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2017. Todd Golden has this team being the second most picked team to win the national championship, but maybe even being the media darling. I mean, if you switch Cooper Flag out and Duke is still the same team, we'd probably be the most picked team, even if they had someone of a good replacement for Cooper Flag. I don't know how to put it because they wouldn't be as good of a team without Flag.
Mm-hmm.
But if you took him away or his name away, then there would be no more love. I don't know what I'm getting at here, but
no, I see your point. Like
yeah,
you're saying, like if it wasn't, if they just had a very good point guard, or not point guard, but sorry, a very good like forward like Flag,
yeah,
but not someone that's going to be the number 1 overall pick in the draft.
yeah. That's my point.
No,
If they had someone who's
you.
maybe like a projected top 20 pick instead, then Florida may be the number 1 projected team to win the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But where I'm getting at here is year 1, Todd Golden, 16 and 17. Now, Colin Castleton got injured in that year, so in like early to mid SEC play. But year 1, it didn't look too good for Todd. Go to the transfer portal. Walter Clayton, interesting pickup from Iona. Played with Patino. We didn't really know how that was going to go. Zion Pullen, late pickup from UC Riverside. He was a late pickup. People don't remember. But it's like, we don't really know how that's going to be. We didn't really add any superstars. Tyrese Samuel averaged 10 in the Big East with Seton Hall. So it's like, we don't really add any big names in the portal. Maybe some guys who like Walter Clayton was someone people really did like.
Micah too. Micah was a backup at Marshall, I think. I don't think he was even a starter at Marshall.
He was freshman of the year in the I know he's freshman of the year in this.
Oh, was he Sunbelt freshman of the year? Oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah,
I didn't realize he produced. Honestly, didn't realize he produced like that.
I think he was like 8-8 as a freshman at Marshall.
Okay.
But again, it's not really a big name in the portal. Big stature guy, but not really a big name. So people didn't really know how year 2 was going to go. Slow start, 1-3 in SEC play, and it looks like the Todd Golden area isn't going to go well. But then things just flip. We played like a top 15 team in the country probably last year to end the season. Then this year we're a top 4 team, a number 1 seed, advancing to the Sweet 16 with title aspirations. How can Billy Napier rejuvenate things here at Florida, going from someone that 99% of the fan base wanted fired after that Texas A&M, even the Miami loss, more people wanted him fired. And then the A&M game you lose that game, and everybody wanted Billy fired, or he knew he needed to be fired in order to advance. So how can he go from such a low to bringing Florida to a national presence like how Todd Golden has done for the basketball team?
Yeah, I mean, to me, like, I think it's important to kind of first obviously point out that football and basketball are not the same thing, in the sense that turning something around in basketball is a lot easier. It requires less capital invested. It requires less to go right. I mean, I think you saw like last year, just getting a couple good portal hits really turned the team around in one off season. And then kind of even more so this year. I mean, I think you look at, how costly the defense proved to be in the postseason last year. What do you do? And you go in the portal and get Elijah Martin, who's probably the best on-ball defender on the team. So,
Ruben Chinilu.
And Ruben Chinilu. So, like, I think if there's a through line here, it's that I think Todd is a guy who has really embraced what modern college sports has become. I think Todd understands, I mean, especially in basketball, like, I think high school recruiting, because he's got a good incoming high school class, certainly the best he's signed so far.
2 top 50 recruits.
Yeah, but I do think Todd has recognized that is less important in basketball, because all you need to do, not all you need to do, but like, if you go and can land a couple really successful, like first team all conference players from the mid-major ranks, those guys are ready, like, to come in and immediately be like all SEC caliber players. So to me, what does Billy need to do to have success more like Todd? I mean, I think part of it is I think Billy is still a little bit reluctant to embrace all the resources and opportunities at your disposal. I mean, I think we saw a small transfer portal class this offseason, which was a lot of it was for logistical reasons, to be fair.
Yep.
I mean, they didn't have the open spots, and maybe we'll see more attrition after spring ball and more guys coming in. But even when Golden was losing, you've seen progression. Yeah, I think that's fair too. I think Golden has I think Golden is better at bringing in players to fill the identity that they want to fill.
I like to say year one, which ended up being a pretty big failure. I mean, we were a bubble team before Castleton got hurt, where he played through Castleton, your best player. And that's something that we see him not really do now, play through the big. And we ran I think we ran like a 2-guard, 3 big set with when we had Castleton here, because the guards weren't really that skilled that he had. So we saw him play out of his system until we got those guys there. So that's exactly what Billy needs to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, and I will say this, I'm not sure that all of the things that Florida needs to do as a football program to have the kind of relative success that the basketball program's having right now, I'm not sure all of those are on Billy Napier, because let's just be real. I mean, report this week came out that I saw, I can't remember from who, that Florida is expected to, in terms of basketball NIL, be one of, if not maybe the top player in the SEC this offseason. Well, I don't think, even if you take the most optimistic vision, I don't think Florida's spending on NIL like that relative for football. I don't think they're spending at an elite level relative to the rest of the conference.
For football, what do you define as elite? Like, what top numbers?
As much as Georgia and Texas and Texas A&M.
I think Georgia isn't spending as much as Texas and A&M and Ohio State did. Yeah, I know. That's from
true.
What I've been told, Florida's spending around that 10 range, which is Georgia's probably around 8, but Georgia also has proven production to still get those elite recruits, unlike Billy. So when we're spending a little bit less and a less proven production, that is going to change things. I will say, again, transfer portal, basketball is a lot different. When you look at 3 of the top 4 teams in the country in college basketball, Florida, our starting 5 is all transfers. Yeah, our starting 5, except Condon. 4 of our starting 5 are transfers. You look at Auburn, Janai Broom was a transfer. Chad Baker-Mazzara was a transfer. Denver Jones, right? Wasn't he a transfer?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he was a transfer. The rest, I think Miles Kelly was also a transfer. So it's a lot of their roster is transfers. I think you also look at Houston, LJ Cryer. He's a transfer, their best player. I think Milos Uzan is also a transfer. Milos for Houston. So the only team in that 1 seed range that's not all transfers is Duke, but they have 5 top 10 or top first-round picks in freshmen that they were able to recruit, which you're not really going to be able to recruit a Cooper Flag, Colin Knippel, Malachi, Nguno, all to Florida. We're not going to spend that much, and we don't have the pull that Duke does. So Billy is really Golden is really doing things the way in basketball that is proven to win right now. And then you look at football. I mean, you look at the top teams. Ohio State now, they did take some transfers. They actually took some elite transfers like Caleb Downs, Will Howard. I mean, Howard's
Quinshon
Judkins, I think, ended up being less valuable than we thought he would be for that team. But because they still had Travion Henderson. But the meat and potatoes of that team, the offensive line, besides Josh Simmons, was 4 5-star recruits. Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Ebuka, Carnell Tate. Those are top 100, number 1 overall recruits. And same thing on the defense with JT Tuimoloa and Jack Sawyer. They're bringing in some elite transfers to combine with their elite recruits. And it's not a lot of transfers. They're not taking 15 transfers. It's 10. But they're really impactful guys. But when you look at what Florida's done this past year, now we're going into year 4 now. Less examples of us trying to add elite transfers because we're not really at the point where we're winning a natty. So it's hard to really tell what Billy would do if he did have those elite recruits as well. But it seems like Billy, what you were trying to say, or what you were saying, is trying to focus more through recruiting than the transfer portal. When he really needs to open his mind more to that transfer portal.
Yeah. Well, I think Billy has a clear vision of how he wants to build the program. And I think in some ways that vision's good. I think in some ways that vision might be a little bit outdated to how you actually need to build a program now. But like, I don't think building through recruiting is bad. I mean, you need a stable base. And because if you don't get that, you become Mike Norvell at Florida State this year. And I don't think any of us want that.
Yep.
But
Rob's, sorry. Sound this real quick.
No, we can go into that. I mean, I think that's
Billy,
part of it, Rob.
I'll read it out for the listeners on Rob says, but Billy said himself he will not get into bidding wars. I also think what you define as a bidding war could be different from what Billy does. Because if you don't think it was a bidding war for Dallas Wilson, I mean, we probably offered him multiple packages to come here, like to Oregon and Miami, even we heard was trying to get him as well. So I do think there is a little bit of leeway with a bidding war.
The only thing I will say about Dallas Wilson is, in that specific example, is like that. Yes, but if Oregon was willing to liquidize the Phil Knight money and go all out to keep Dallas Wilson, I don't think Florida was prepared to go shot for shot there. Like, you know what I mean? I think that's kind of what Rob means. Like, even then, like we made a competitive offer to Dallas Wilson from what it sounds like. And then Oregon sort of went like, okay, we're tired of dealing with this. We can go get other guys. We'll move on from this battle. I mean, obviously they're not afraid to go put together a big package like that and throw it to someone, but I just think, ultimately Billy hasn't won more than 9 games in a season here, and that's counting a bowl win this year. Like, hasn't won more than 8 games. Yeah, hasn't won more than 8 games. So, you got to start winning at some point. And like, I understand the logic of you don't want to, like overinvest yourself in these transfers and then cause problems down the line. Like, I understand you're trying to build the program to be stable and successful in the long term, but also you got to start winning in the short term. And I think that's something that Todd has recognized, because the way Todd's portaled this team so far, it's to never have a true rebuilding year. And I think even with everyone that's set to leave this team this year, I don't think next year has to be a rebuilding year.
No, I see it as a potential top 10 team again.
It could be, because it's going to require hitting in the portal again, but maybe if Condon comes back, we'll see what happens with the NBA draft and stuff. But if like Condon comes back, Micah comes back, maybe Denzel comes back, and the freshman coming in, you go portal some guards, like you could have a really good roster here again this year. And part of that's because I think Todd is not willing to let this roster drop below what he sees as the acceptable floor.
Yep. Yeah, it's because he's brought in some multiple-year transfers as well as developed his own guys. I mean, Will Richard was a 3-year player here as a transfer. But like you mentioned, we're keeping the roster, like we lose our guards, but we probably keep our bigs. And we have another guard off the bench in Denzel Aberdeen, who has proven to be an all SEC level player, possibly at starter. And then you talked about our NIL budget is going to go through the roof in basketball and probably going to go after a top guard in the transfer portal. So, I mean, he's doing that. But I think we saw Billy this past offseason go and get a top 10 class that may not even be finished yet, with news of Javari Flowers starting to heat up for Florida. So that still might be a top 8. I think we're 8, so probably top 7 class if we were able to finish off and land Javari Flowers. But I think that also does develop the depth, and kind of like how Georgia does it. It just feels like Billy's trying to build like Georgia, but he's not Georgia. Which, it's a good and bad thing, because if he ends up succeeding, we should be in the long haul. I mean, we should be in the line for a very long, successful tenure of Billy Napier. But with just this middling that it's been, it's just going to be a bunch of mediocrity. I mean, because maybe DJ is just a one-time thing where he gets lucky and maybe he's able to get 9 wins the next 2 years. And it's like you can't fire a coach after winning 9 games. But then he loses Lagway and we only win 8 or 7 or 8. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, that was just a rebuilding year. And then we continue to only win 8, 7 games. So it could develop into a problem there.
Yeah, and I think like that's been probably kind of what you said earlier has been my primary frustration with Billy's sort of
Mm-hmm.
program building philosophy is that, you want to be Georgia, like that's fine. You want to bang, you want to hit in the trenches, you want to play 12 personnel, like that's cool. That's a good vision. But the problem is when you're doing that against Georgia, who does it better than you with more talent than you, is not going to go well. And I
Yep.
think that's where we've still seen Florida fail to get over that hump under Billy Napier. We even saw this year. I mean, you can litigate, what would have happened had Lagway stayed in the game. We don't know against Georgia. But I mean, I think we know that what Billy does can be good enough against a team like LSU that's probably like pound for pound pretty similarly talented. Or against, a team like Ole Miss that maybe doesn't match up great against what Florida's trying to do. Like, it's still, when you play the Texases, when you play the Georgias, that talent differential still really shows itself. So
Mm-hmm.
what I think Todd has done pretty well here has sort of adjusted the philosophy and the style to what he's got, whereas I'm not sure Billy's been able to do that as well.
Absolutely. So, how do we define the success of football compared to basketball? Basketball, we discussed it. It's a lot easier to reflip a roster in 3 years than it is for football. And I mean, now Golden's looking to hopefully lead us on a path to a national title in year 3. I don't think Billy can do that. But what does Billy need to do for you to have like absolute confidence in him going forward? Like I think we both have for Todd Golden at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a couple things. I mean, I will say, like, I think a lot of it is just like, first of all, get to the college football playoff.
Yep.
Ideally get there and win a game or two at least.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do think, and I've heard people say this, and I think there might be something to it, that in this new era of the sport, the idea of being like a James Franklin or something, like a coach like that has the team in position year in and year out, but hasn't gotten over the hump and won it all yet, that might not be viewed with the same sort of like negative perception, because at the end of the day, like in the 12-team playoff era, like, when it was a 4-team playoff, you were pretty clearly in the caliber of a team that was capable of having a good enough season to be in that field, or you're not. But like now the name of the game is just getting there. And because it's 12-team playoff, like a program like Florida should, if things are going well, reasonably expect that pretty much every season you're at least, if not in that field, you're in that mix.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think to me, like, that's what success look. I mean, like, if you want to like quantify, like, what does a Sweet 16 run in the tournament look like? It's getting to the college football playoff and winning a game and looking like you belong there. And I mean, maybe that sounds like I'm aiming low, but I mean, this hasn't been a nationally relevant program in a pretty long time. I think that's the first step it needs to take to get back there.
Yeah, well, how I was about to compare it was to if you make the NCAA tournament, it's like it's gonna be pretty tough to fire you unless you're every single year on the bubble. I mean, Texas just fired their head coach after making the tournament, or well, they lost in the first 4, so I don't know if you count that as making the tournament. But they made it to the tournament last year and this year. Didn't win a game. They still fired him. So it's hard to compare. But do you think Mike White would have left Florida if instead of going to the NIT, he made the NCAA tournament? Does Scott Strickland try harder to keep, or if Scott Strickland wanted to keep Mike White, he probably could have kept Mike White.
I think that Mike White left because Mike White knew he was going to be entering the next season on the hot seat. I think that had he made the tournament that year, I still think that would have been the case, barring like a Sweet 16 run, because getting to the first or second round, we knew Mike White could do that. Mike White had proven time and time again he's capable of at least getting to the first or second round of the tournament.
He's only lost now once in the first round, and that was a pretty unlucky matchup against Gonzaga. So
yeah,
top 10 KenPom team.
But I mean, coming off, like remembering that the year prior they had lost to the 15 seed Oral Roberts in the second round, squandered a really easy path to the Sweet 16. So no, I think barring a deep run, I think Mike White was under a lot of pressure. I mean, frankly, I didn't think Mike White should have been retained that season at all. Like, I think the fact that they were going to bring him back if he hadn't left was bad business by Scott Strickland. But it is what it is. It all worked out.
And we'll end this segment here facts with the personnel we have on offense right now, going 12 personnel is like driving a Lamborghini through a school zone. And I don't trust Billy to adapt. Hopefully he changes. This might just answer the question right here. How does Billy adapt the offense? Because if the defense is the same, a little better than it was last year, we know that's good enough to win top 25, top 10 matchups. It's all about, will the offense keep getting better to win those games consistently?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it have the potential. I mean, obviously, we know what Lagway's capable of. I mean, we'll see. You know, Billy keeps bringing in. He's not changing play callers, but he's at least bringing in other people to, other people bringing in inputs and philosophies. We'll see if they adapt. But I mean, I am just as skeptical as you are, and the only reason we're having this entire conversation right now is because we've just watched Todd Golden do in 3 years relative to his sport what Billy really hasn't come close to doing in the same time frame. So
absolutely, we'll end that there.